Amaka sat in her seat, her head bent low. The classroom was filled with noise, but she didn't hear any of it. She only heard the pounding of her heart. Her mother's grip on her shoulder was firm. "Stand up," her mother, Maria, commanded, her voice cutting through the air like a knife. Amaka hesitated, but Maria's hand tightened, pulling her up from the chair. The classroom felt silent as all eyes turned to them. Amaka felt the heat of embarrassment rising in her cheeks. She wished she could vanish, disappear into thin air. "Is this what you care about?" Maria spat, her hand grabbing a handful of Amaka's thick, long hair. Without another word, she pulled out a pair of scissors from her bag. Amaka's eyes widened in horror. "Mama, please, don't do this," Amaka whispered, her voice trembling, but Maria was beyond reasoning. She was furious. The midterm result had come in that morning, and Amaka had failed almost every subject. Maria couldn't believe it. She had done everything to ensure her daughters were well educated, to give them a better life. But Amaka seemed to care only about one thing: her hair. Maria raised the scissors, and before Amaka could react, she began to cut. Snip, snip, snip. The sound of the scissors slicing through her hair echoed in the silent classroom. Strands of her beloved hair fell to the floor in uneven clumps. Amaka stood frozen, her eyes wide with shock and tears. Her classmates gathered around, a mix of curiosity and glee on their faces. Some whispered, others pointed, and a few started to laugh. The sound of their laughter broke something inside Amaka. She couldn't hold back her tears anymore. They streamed down her face as she watched the hair she had spent hours caring for fall to the ground. "Maybe now you will focus on your studies," Maria snapped, dropping the scissors on the teacher's desk with a loud clatter. Didn't even glance back as she stomped out of the classroom, leaving Amaka standing in a sea of her own hair, surrounded by the laughter of her classmates. Amaka had always been different from her sisters, Ada. While Ada excelled in school, earning top marks in science and maths, Amaka's interest lay elsewhere. From a young age, she was fascinated by hair. She would spend hours watching her mother plait hair, admiring the intricate design Maria would create for the women in their village. When Amaka wasn't watching her mother, she was experimenting on her own hair. She loved the way her hair felt between her fingers, the way it could be styled in so many different ways. Her favorite part of the day was when she would sit in front of the small mirror in their bedroom, combing and braiding her hair into new design she had seen in magazines or on TV. But this love for hair was a constant source of tension between Amaka and Maria. Maria believed in education above all else. "Education is the key to a better life," she would say, her voice firm and unyielding. She wanted both her daughters to excel in school, to become successful women who would leave their family out of poverty. Ada was the perfect student, always coming home with good grades and praise from her teachers. But Amaka was different. She struggled with her studies, finding it hard to concentrate in class. Her mind would often wander to thoughts of hair, the style she wanted to try, the color she wanted to experiment with. As a result, her grades suffered, and Maria's frustration grew. "You are wasting your time with that hair nonsense," Maria would often say whenever she caught Amaka braiding her hair instead of studying. "Look at your sister Ada. She's doing well in school because she's focused. Why can't you be more like her?" Amaka would lower her head, not daring to argue with her mother, but deep down she knew she was different. She didn't care about science or maths. She cared about hair. She dreamed of one day opening her own salon where she could create beautiful hairstyles for people and make them feel good about themselves. But that dream seems impossible, especially with her mother's constant pressure to do well in school. The more her mother pushed her towards academics, the more Amaka withdrew into her world of hair. She spent more time watching her tutorials on her father's phone. She even started experimenting with dyes, using natural ingredients she found around their home. One evening, as she was mixing up a batch of dye in the kitchen, Maria walked in and caught her. The look of disappointment and anger on her mother's face was enough to make Amaka's heart sink. "Is this what you are doing with your time?" Maria shouted, her voice trembling with anger. "Instead of studying, you are playing with this nonsense. You will never amount to anything if you continue like this, Amaka." Amaka tried to explain, to tell her mother that this was what she loved, what she was good at, but Maria wouldn't listen. She snatched the ball of dye from Amaka's hand and dumped it on her head. "No more of this," she declared. "You will focus on your studies from now on, or else." Amaka didn't know what "or else" meant, but she was too afraid to find out. She nodded quietly, her heart heavy with the knowledge that her mother didn't understand her passion. She tried to focus on her studies, but no matter how hard she tried, her mind always drifted back to her. After the incident in the classroom, Amaka avoided everyone. She couldn't stand the look of pity or the whispers behind her back. The once vibrant and confident girl was now a shadow of her former self. Her hair, once her pride and joy, was now gone, leaving her feeling exposed and vulnerable. Every time she saw her reflection, she felt a pang of pain. The uneven jagged patch where her mother's scissors had cut deep into her hair were a constant reminder of her failure, not just in school, but in her mother's eyes. The laughter of her classmates haunted her. She could still hear it in her mind, echoing whenever she was alone. It wasn't just the loss of her hair that hurt. It was the humiliation of being laughed at, of being seen as a joke. The once popular and well-liked Amaka became withdrawn, hardly speaking to anyone, even her sister, Ada. One day, while sitting alone in their small kitchen, Amaka's father came to her. He had noticed the change in her, the sadness that had taken over her once bright spirit. "Amaka," he began gently, sitting down beside her. "I know your mother was hard on you. She only wants what's best for you, but I also know how much you love her. You have a gift, Amaka, and it will be a shame to let it go to waste." Amaka looked up at her father, surprised by his words. He had always been quiet, letting Maria take the lead in raising their daughters. But now, seeing the understanding in his eyes, Amaka felt a glimmer of hope. "I don't know what to do, Papa," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Mama wants me to focus on school, but all I can think about is her. I feel like I'm failing her." Her father sighed, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Your mother wants you to succeed in life, Amaka, but success doesn't always come from books. Sometimes it comes from following your passion, from doing what you love. I see how happy you are when you are working with her. Maybe that's where your future lies." Amaka's heart swelled with emotions. For the first time, someone was acknowledging her passion, seeing it as something valuable. She felt a renewed sense of determination. She knew she had to find a way to turn her love for her into something her mother could be proud of. It wasn't long after that conversation that Amaka made a surprising discovery. She was helping her father on the farm, as she often did on weekends, when she noticed a bunch of plantain leaves lying in a pile. The green leaves were large and sturdy, their texture smooth to the touch. As she picked up one of the leaves, an idea sparked in her mind. What if she could use these leaves in her hair creation? It seemed crazy, but the more she thought about it, the more excited she became. She had seen how people in their village use natural materials for various purposes. Could she use plantain leaves to make something beautiful? That night, after everyone had got to bed, Amaka sneaked into the kitchen and retrieved a plantain leaves. She took them to her room and began experimenting. Her fingers moved quickly, weaving and twisting the leaves into different shapes. It was difficult at first. The leaves were tough and didn't bend easily, but Amaka was patient. She kept at it, trying different techniques, until finally she created something that surprised even herself. She had made a small braid from the plantain leaves, and it looked remarkably like human hair. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Amaka's heart raced with excitement. She had found a way to combine her love for hair with something unique, something that no one else was doing. Amaka spent the next few weeks refining her techniques. Every night after her family had gone to bed, she would work on her plantain leaves creation, perfecting the process. She experimented with different ways of treating the leaves, soaking them in water, drying them in the sun, even adding natural oils to make them softer and more pliable. Slowly, the rough, stiff braid she had created with began to transform into something smooth and beautiful, something that felt almost like real hair. Amaka's excitement grew with each new discovery. She started creating full wigs from the plantain leaves, carefully styling them into different designs. The results were stunning. The wigs were soft, shiny, and looked just like the human hair extensions that were popular in the market. Amaka couldn't believe what she had created. She knew she was onto something special, something that could change her life forever. One day, while Amaka was working on a new wig, Ada walked into the room. She had been watching Amaka from a distance, noticing how she had changed over the past few weeks. Ada was curious about what her sister was doing, but she didn't want to upset her by prying. However, this time she couldn't resist. "Amaka, what are you doing?" Ada asked, her voice gentle. Amaka froze, her hands stealing over the wig she was braiding. She hadn't expected Ada to come in. She turned slowly, hiding the wig behind her back. "Nothing," she mumbled, not meeting Ada's eyes. Ada walked closer. Her curiosity piqued. Is that hair?" she asked. Her eyes widened as she caught a glimpse of the wig behind Amaka's back. Amaka sighed, knowing she couldn't hide it any longer. She slowly brought the wig out from behind her back and showed it to Ada. It's something I've been working on," she admitted quietly. "I made it from plantain leaves." Ada's mouth dropped open in surprise. She reached out and touched the wigs, her fingers brushing over the soft silky strand. "Amaka, this is amazing. It feels just like real hair. How did you do it?" Amaka explained how she had discovered the process, how she had spent weeks perfecting it. Ada listened in awe, unable to believe what she was hearing. "You have a real gift, Amaka," Ada said, her voice filled with admiration. "This is something special. You should show Mama." Amaka shook her head quickly. "No, I can't. Mama will never understand. She wants me to focus on school, not this." Ada was silent for a moment. Then she looked at Amaka with a determined expression. "Maybe Mama doesn't understand now, but she will. You have to show her. Amaka, she needs to see what you are capable of." Amaka hesitated, fear gripping her heart. She knew Ada was right, but the thought of showing her mother what she had been doing terrified her. What if Mama didn't approve? What if she destroyed everything I had worked for? But Ada was persistent. "You can't hide this forever, Amaka. Mama will find out sooner or later. It's better if you show her on your own terms. Maybe she will be proud of you." Those words echoed in Amaka's mind. Maybe she will be proud of me. The thought of her mother being proud of her, finally understanding and appreciating her passion, filled Amaka with a sense of hope she hadn't felt in a long time. That night, Amaka couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, thinking about what Ada had said. The fear of her mother's disapproval was strong, but the hope of finally being seen and understood was even stronger. The next day after school, Amaka gathered all the wigs she had made and carefully placed them in a large basket. Her hands trembled as she carried the basket to the living room, where her mother was sitting and mending a tear in one of her father's shirts. Ada was nearby, watching with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. "Mama," Amaka called softly, her voice trembling. Maria looked up from her sewing, her eyes narrowing when she saw the basket in Amaka's hand. "What is that?" she asked, suspicion lacing her tone. Amaka took a deep breath, summoning all her courage. "I have something to show you, Mama, something I've been working on." Maria's eyes flickered with confusion and curiosity. As she set down the shirt and stood up, she walked over to Amaka and peered into the basket, her brows furrowed in confusion when she saw the wigs. "What is this?" Amaka gently lifted one of the wigs from the basket and held it out to her mother. "I made this, Mama, from plantain leaves." Maria stared at the wig in disbelief, her hands hovering over it as if she wasn't sure whether to touch it. "Plantain leaves?" she repeated, her voice a mix of confusion and disbelief. "Yes, Mama," Amaka said, her voice growing stronger with each word. "I found a way to treat these leaves and turn them into thin hair. I've been working on this for weeks and I think it's something special." Maria's expression hardened as she took the wig from Amaka's hand. She turned it over, examining it closely. The room was silent, the air thick with tension. Amaka's heart pounded in her chest as she watched her mother's face, trying to read her emotions. "This is what you've been wasting your time on," Maria finally said, her voice low and cold. "While your sister is studying to become a doctor, you've been playing with plantain leaves. This is why your grades are so poor. This is foolishness, Amaka. Wake up." Amaka's heart sank. She had been prepared for her mother's disapproval, but hearing the words still hurt more than she had expected. She opened her mouth to speak, to defend herself, but the words caught in her throat. Ada, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. "Mama, it's not foolishness," she said, her voice firm. "Amaka has a gift. Look at these wigs now. They are beautiful and they look just like real human hair. This is something unique, something that could change her life, that could change our life." But Maria shook her head, her lips pressed into a thin line. "This is not what I want from my daughters," she said sternly. "I want her to focus on her studies, to become someone important, not just a hairdresser now." Tears welled up in Amaka's eyes, but she blinked them back, refusing to let them fall. "Mama, this is what I love," she said quietly. "I've tried to focus on school, but my heart is in her. I want to create, to make people feel beautiful. I am good at it, Mama. Please, just give me a chance." Maria was silent for a long moment, her eyes locked on the wig in her hand. Then with a sigh, she set the wig in the basket. "I can't stop you from doing what you want, Amaka," she said, her voice soft now, though still tinged with disappointment. "But don't expect me to support this. I want more from you. I want you to succeed in life, not waste your time on this nonsense." With that, she turned and walked out of the room, leaving Amaka standing there, her heart heavy with a mix of sadness and resolve. Ada moved closer to her sister, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Don't give up, Amaka," Ada whispered. "You have something special here. Mama may not see it now, but I believe in you, and one day she will too." Amaka nodded, wiping away a tear that had finally escaped. "Thank you, Ada," she whispered back. "I won't give up. I will show Mama that this isn't just a hobby or nonsense like she said. I will make something of myself, with or without her support." Despite her mother's lack of support, Amaka threw herself into her work. With renewed determination, she continued to refine her technique, making more wigs and even experimenting with different styles and colors. Words of her unique creation began to spread, first among the women in their village and then beyond the village. One day, a well-known hairdresser from a nearby town heard about Amaka's plantain leaf wig and came to see them for herself. She was amazed by what Amaka had created and offered to help her sell the wigs in her shops. The offer was a turning point for Amaka. It was the first time someone outside her family had recognized her talent, and it gave her the confidence she needed to keep going. Soon, Amaka's wigs were in high demand. Women from all over the area came to buy them, impressed by how natural they look and how durable they were. Amaka's small bedroom became a makeshift workshop filled with baskets of plantain leaves, hair dry, and various tools. Every day she worked tirelessly, creating new wigs and experimenting with different designs. As her business grew, she began to earn a good income, much more than anyone had expected. Despite her success, Maria remained distant, still unwilling to fully accept Amaka's chosen path. But Amaka was undeterred. She knew that proving herself would take time, and she was willing to be patient. She continued working hard, determined to build something that even her mother would be proud of. One day, while working on a particular intricate wig, Amaka received an unexpected visitor. It was Choma, one of the girls who had laughed at her the day her mother had cut her hair in the classroom. Choma looked nervous, hesitating at the doorway as she clutched her handbag tightly. "Amaka, can I talk to you?" Choma asked, her voice little. Amaka was surprised but nodded, setting down the wig she was working on. "Of course, Chioma, come in." Chioma stepped into the room, looking around at the wigs hanging on the wall, her eyes wide with admiration. "I've been hearing about your wigs," she said. "Everyone is talking about them. They say that you are the best around here." Amaka smiled, though she still felt the sting of the past. "Thank you. I've been working hard on them." Chioma bit her lips, her eyes dropping to the floor. "Amaka, I wanted to say I'm sorry," she said, her voice trembling, "for laughing at you that day. I was wrong, and I've regretted it ever since. You didn't deserve that." Amaka felt a rush of emotion, but she kept her voice steady. "Thank you, Chioma. It hurts me a lot, but I've moved on. I'm glad you came to say this." Chioma nodded, relief evident in her expression. I also need your help. I have an event coming up and I want to look my best. Could you make a wig for me?" Amaka was taken aback. She hadn't expected this. Chioma, one of the girls who had laughed at her, was now asking for her help. It was a powerful reminder of how far she had come. Amaka's heart softened and she nodded. "Of course, Chioma, I will be happy to help." Chioma's face lit up with gratitude. "Thank you, Amaka. I will pay whatever you ask." Amaka shook her head. "Consider it my gift to you." Over the next few days, Amaka crafted one of the best wigs for Chioma, pouring all her skills and creativity into it. When Chioma came to pick it up, she was overwhelmed with emotions. The wig was perfect and it made her feel beautiful. She hugged Amaka tightly, tears in her eyes. "Thank you, Amaka. You are amazing." Words of Chioma's transformation spread quickly, and soon more of Amaka's former classmates, even those who had laughed at her, came to her for weeks. Amaka treated them all with kindness, never letting her past hurt cloud her judgment. One evening, as Amaka was cleaning up her workshop, her mother entered the room. She had a thoughtful look on her face, one that Amaka hadn't seen before. "Amaka," Maria began, her voice soft than usual, "I've been hearing about your success. People all over the village, even from other towns, are talking about your wigs." Amaka paused, her heart beating faster. She hadn't expected this conversation, not after all the distance between them. "Yes, Mama," she replied carefully. "I've been working hard." Maria looked around the room, taking in the wigs and the tools that Amaka used. She reached out and gently touched one of the wigs hanging on the wall, her finger brushing over the smooth strand. These are so beautiful," she said quietly, her voice filled with a mix of pride and regret. "I didn't understand before, Amaka. I didn't see how much this meant to you. I wanted you to follow the path I thought was best, but I was wrong. You found your own path, and it's one that makes you happy." Amaka's eyes filled with tears. This was what she had been waiting for, what she had dreamt of, her mother's acceptance, her understanding. "Mama," she said, her voice shaking, "I just wanted to make you proud." Mama Nkechi turned to her daughter, tears glistening in her own eyes. "I'm proud of you, Amaka, more than you will ever know. You've built something amazing with your own hands, something that no one else could have done. You've shown me that there is more than one way to succeed in life." Amaka felt a wave of relief and joy wash over her. She stepped forward and hugged her mother tightly, feeling the warmth of her mother's embrace for the first time in what felt like forever. It was a moment of healing, of reconciliation, and of newfound respect. Amaka's business continued to grow, and with it, her confidence. She began training other young women in her village, teaching them how to make wigs from plantain leaves and other natural materials. Her small bedroom workshop expanded into a full-fledged salon where women came from far and wide to have their hair styled by Amaka and her team. Maria became one of Amaka's biggest supporters, proudly telling everyone about her daughter's success. She even began helping out in the salon, welcoming customers and assisting with some of the simpler tasks. It was her way of making up for the years of misunderstanding, and Amaka welcomed her with open arms. Ada too was a constant presence in Amaka's life, offering her support and encouragement. The bond between the sisters grew stronger as they both pursued their own dreams, each proud of the other's accomplishments. Amaka's journey from a young girl with a passion for hair to a successful entrepreneur was not an easy one. It was filled with challenges, heartache, and moments of doubt. But through it all, she stayed true to herself, following her passion and turning her love for hair into a thriving business. And in the end, she found not only success, but also the acceptance and pride of her family, the respect of her peers, and the fulfillment of a dream she had once thought impossible. Amaka had carved out her own path, one that was uniquely hers, and in doing so, she had shown everyone, including herself, that true success comes from following your heart. But as Amaka stands at the pinnacle of her success, one question remains. What would you do if the very thing you were once mocked for became the key to your greatest triumph? Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to share this story to your family and your friends who might love to see them. Till I see you again in my next story. Goodbye.